Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here. Welcome to Capaldi Month, celebrating 10 years of the 12th Doctor. And it occurs to me that for the over 8 years that the Universals have been making videos, we've not actually touched upon Titan Comics yet. We haven't done anything revolving Titan Comics. We've touched upon comics with Doctor Who Magazine and the Radio Times, and that Second Doctor one between the War Games and Spearhead from Space, but we've never actually touched upon Titan Comics yet. I don't know if that's because nobody on the channel is interested in Titan Comics or collects them. I recently started collecting a few of the collections last year, and my first one was Ghost Stories, the mini-series spin-off / sequel to the 12th Doctor Christmas special, The Return of Doctor Mysterio, that aired in 2016. And it was about £1 in Forbidden Planet at Cambridge, so I thought, yeah, why not? So I picked it up, and recently I've read through it, and so to kickstart Capaldi Month, I'm going to do the first Universal's Titan Comics review. Bring it! So Titan Comics have been doing officially licensed Doctor Who comics since about 2015, I believe. So their 10th anniversary is coming up soon, next year or 2016. I'll have to double check that, and me in editing can confirm whether it was 2015 or 16 or even 2014. Might be their 10th anniversary this year. So me in the future in editing can confirm which year it is. I know IDW did Doctor Who comics for a few years prior to that, focusing on the 11th Doctor, and they did a couple of Star Trek crossovers, which is something that is happened again recently, but in another medium. Titan has taken over the Doctor Who comics range, as well as several pieces of Doctor Who merchandise, since around 2015, give or take. So they've been doing officially licensed Doctor Who comics for nearly the last 10 years. Titan have done several comics and collections featuring the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th Doctors, as well as a few featuring classic Doctors, namely the 3rd, 4th, 7th and 8th Doctors, and a Origins one featuring the Fugitive Doctor, plus a few specials such as Time Lord Victorious, Doomsday, Missy and multi-Doctor crossover stories, as well as a few other special releases within their specific Doctor ranges, such as Tales from the TARDIS for the 10th Doctor, The Road to the 13th Doctor, plus a few crossovers with the 10th Doctor, and the miniseries Ghost Stories, which, as mentioned, serves as a sequel miniseries to The Return of Doctor Mysterio, and is included as a bonus release in the 12th Doctor range. Titan Comics have also started releasing 15th Doctor comics, so expect to see a few more of those in the upcoming years. Whether they'll do the 14th Doctor is yet to be confirmed. So, let's have a look at Ghost Stories to see how the stories turn out. Yeah, I wasn't going to wear the sunglasses for the entire review. So the plot of Ghost Stories sees Grant, Lucy, and Lucy's daughter Jennifer, now 8 years old, as this story takes place, these stories take place 8 years after the events of The Return of Doctor Mysterio. So if that story is set about 2016 when it broadcast, then that means these stories are going to be set about end of this year, 2024. So the basic premise is that the 12th Doctor comes back to Grant and Lucy, saying that he is looking for these other 3 crystals, just like the one that Grant accidentally swallowed in The Return of Doctor Mysterio, which gave him his powers. And that's one of 4 gemstones that are needed to help save the universe, powered by these older ancient beings to help power this ship to help keep the universe in balance every couple thousand years. So the Doctor, Grant, Lucy and Jennifer, because they Jennifer and Lucy insist on coming along, they all travel to a future New York City, to another world, and finally to a Sycorax spaceship to gather the 3 crystals, and with the ghost crystal, the one Grant swallowed, they take him to the space station to help save the universe. And as they go along these storylines, they have to deal with the circumstances that are happening, and have the characters grow more as people, like Grant having to realise that his powers aren't just the superpowers, but also him inspiring other people to stand up to evil and to be better people, and Lucy also using her influence as a journalist to help overcome corruption and inspire people to help fight back against oppressors. And Jennifer is just awesome. She's such a cool character. She's fun. She's the cool kid character who you enjoy watching or reading or listening to having an adventure. Not one of the annoying ones. She's a cool kid character. Very fun, very nice, and definitely eager to get stuck in. She's not a, oh, I can't be asked to do all of this, Manji. But no, she's actually a character who gets stuck in. She has that determination and seriousness to stand by her parents, or stepfather in the case of Grant, but mother and stepfather, and go and help them. She loves them and she wants to get stuck in on the action, and yeah, she is great. She's even the one who recovers the final stone at the very end from the Sycorax ship, with a bit of help from Grant, but she's already halfway up trying to get it before he comes to give her a lift up with his superpowers. So yeah, I really like Jennifer. She's such a cool character in this story. Would like more of her in, if they do a Ghost Stories 2 second series, then yes, more Jennifer, please. Heck, I would even be happy with her becoming a companion in the future. As for the stories themselves, well, the miniseries was split into 8 parts for digital release, releasing between the 26th of December 2016, so right after the Return of Doctor Mysterio aired. They basically got the ball rolling right afterwards with that, not unlike Big Finish releasing their first Diary of River Song audio box set not long after The Husbands of River Song aired on Christmas Day 2015, and then they got the first box set out just a few days afterwards, or within a week or two at least. And then again with the first of the David Bradley First Doctor Adventures box sets being released a few days or within a week after the broadcast of Twice Upon a Time on Christmas Day 2017. So a bit like that. And then the final part was released digitally on the 22nd of May 2017. Ooh, the day after my 18th birthday. It would have been my cousin's 28th birthday, but he's not been around anymore. The stories were then published in print issues from the 5th of April to the 5th of July 2017 in 4 volumes collecting 2 parts each, and then a single hardback collection of the stories was released on the 17th of October 2017, using the print issues releases as its basis, so it's split into 4 parts rather than 8. But you can kind of tell where this story split, because each of the 4 print issues does feel like it does have, like it's split into 2 parts, and that could be where the digital parts split off. So the first print volume starts off in New York with the introduction, and then we move to New York in the future. Then we have more New York in the future for the second volume, before we wrap up that storyline, before then moving to a futuristic planet that Harmony Shoal has taken over. Volume 3 wraps that story up and then begins the story with the Sycorax, and then Volume 4 finishes the Sycorax story before moving to the climax with the 4 stones and the space station saving the universe. And so each of those 8 parts of the storyline would probably be the individual digital part releases. And because this is following the print version, that means it's placed up into 4 parts rather than in one go. In all fair honesty, that's probably easier for the readers to read a big chunk, especially if they were split into 8 smaller parts prior to that, and then each 2 got merged into 4 slightly longer ones, so then putting it into one really long one would probably be a bit of a reading challenge. So it's probably wise to keep it as the 4-part format. Even if it is a bit odd that it does go from like one storyline to another in a way, because the first and 8th parts are bookend, and then you got storylines forming parts 2 and 3, 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. So in the volume formats, then you got the how I described it earlier, with the first the introduction, and then storyline 1's first bit, storyline 1 part 2 and 2 part 1, 2 part 2 and 3 part 1, and then 3 part 2 and the final bookend. As for the stories themselves, they're fun. They've got some good stuff in there. I think what's probably objectively the strongest one is the Harmony Shoal one, as it merges a bit of Grant learning his lesson, his character journey that we saw in the Smoke storyline, and using that, and then Lucy has her one in the Harmony Shoal one, and we're able to run both of them at the same time, more or less, or back to back, and it works really well on that. I think the weakest one is possibly either the introduction, as much as the character dynamics between the Doctor and the family are fun, or the Sycorax one. The Sycorax one kind of just exists. It does have some cool fight sequences between the Ghost and some Sycorax, and the Doctor basically being really cool and like, oh, you shouldn't have done that, Sycorax leader moments. But plot-wise, there isn't a huge amount. It's really good for Jennifer and Lucy, and it's Jennifer's best moment, of course, but plot-wise, I think it is the weakest element. As for the Smoke subplot, that one was good as well. I wasn't quite as invested in the first half as I thought I would be, but the second half was a bit stronger, and that's probably because of, again, the usage of Grant using his inspiration to help empower and be a superhero, rather than just continuing beating up the Smoke until like knocks some sense into him. But his backstory was really good as well. And the final part, whilst not a spectacular way to save the universe, was still a nice way of being done. It's basically key to time without the threat of the Black Guardian being on the Doctor and Co.'s trail. But it's still done effectively, and the artwork is definitely at its best in part 4 of the print issues, and digitally it would probably be part 8 and the end of part 7. But yeah, I definitely saw a really good mix of styles. But I think part 7 and 8 on the digital side, volume 4 on the print side, is the best art-wise. No wonder they put a sketch-out drawing in black and white, and then a coloured version of 2 of these scenes from part 7 and 8 digital volume 4 print at the back of the collector's edition, as well as also the really cool covers. I particularly like issue 1 cover C's cover. That one's really cool. On the whole, Ghost Stories is a fun continuation of the Ghosts, aka Grant, and Lucy and Jennifer's story from the Return of Doctor Mysterio. It's not really anything too special beyond that. It's a nice comic miniseries featuring those characters, following on from the events of that story, and even references it, such as Harmony Shoal coming back, and also featuring the Sycorax, which is pretty cool, even though that storyline is probably the weakest of the main 3 arcs, not including the bookends, in which it's between the Sycorax 2 parts and the opening, but the opening has some fun dynamics, and I suppose maybe if I was going by the digital parts, it would be part 6, then the start of the Sycorax storyline. Then, in terms of the individual volumes, possibly the first volume, because like I said, I wasn't as huge on the Smoke storyline to begin with, but then as I got in, which would be part 2 on the digital ones, but what would be part 3 at the start of volume 2 was more of the, oh yeah, that was a bit more of a interesting storyline. So I guess individual digital part 6 is the weakest, start of the Sycorax arc, but physical copy issue volume 1, which would be the first 2 parts, would be the weakest. But then the strongest is possibly the last one with parts 7 and 8, and the strongest individual part would actually be part 5. Just before the Sycorax one starts. It's the end of the Harmony Shoal one. The Harmony Shoal arc is probably the strongest one out of the main 3, and then maybe also the climax one as well, even if it's not a huge Save the Universe one, but it's a good one. So yeah, like I said, it's a good comic mini-series that serves as a good follow-up to the Return of Doctor Mysterio, which is a TV story that I actually really like. I know it's not that popular, but I really like it. It's my 3rd favourite of the Christmas specials, and it's a good jumping-on point for newcomers to Titan Comics. Get them introduced with a one-off mini-series collection or volumes of a mini-series if you're going for the individual ones. Same for the digital releases, but if you're going for the collections, yes, get this one for the whole lot. And if people like what they've got here, then they can go and explore some more of Titan's range. They've got plenty of stories, as mentioned, and according to the back, you can just kind of jump in wherever you want. Each of the main collections more or less collect a couple stories, so even if there's like an arc or something, they'll collect them all together in a collection, and then you can just jump in wherever you want. So say you wanted to read another 12th Doctor Titan comic collection, you could easily start with Volume 4 as you could with Volume 1, or with Volume 7. So these are very accessible for newcomers who want to get on board, and longevity is probably also heavily rewarded as well. The only kind of real thing you might need to worry about is new original Titan comic characters like the 10th and 11th Doctor companions, who are introduced in those comic stories. But other than maybe that, and maybe a few other nods to the past and references that they do, then it's probably very accessible to check these stories out, and Ghost Stories is definitely a recommended jumping on point. As for the stories themselves, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. A very good recommended release for newcomers to Titan, not entirely needed to be experienced by anyone who's looking to just be on a general look around, unless you're a completist, but definitely a good curiosity, and like I said, a good jumping on point into Titan. If you're more versed into Titan, it's one of the more maybe save to later ones, but if you want a good jumping on point, it's definitely a recommended release. So that's it from my review of Ghost Stories. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later in the month for more Capaldi Month goodies. Until the next time, folks, don't be lasagna. That's an Into the Dalek reference. In fairness to the 12th Doctor, he did have quite a lot of cool one-liners and quotes.